Hey, what's up, all of you beautiful subscribers? Welcome back to the Jack Chapple Show, where we talk about business and stock market news pretty much every single day. And the very first thing I want to talk about of the many stories is I want to talk about investing in Bitcoin versus investing in the stock market. More specifically, what's going to appreciate faster, investing in something like the Dow Jones Industrial Average over the next 5 to 10 years, or investing in Bitcoin. And I want to know what you guys think too, so make sure you leave a comment down below, okay? So this was actually inspired by this article here saying, what will we see first, the Dow Jones 30,000 or Bitcoin 30,000? So this person sent out a tweet here. It was responded by 3,393 people, and 59% think that Bitcoin will reach $30,000 before the Dow Jones, and they think that it'll happen within the next 10 years. And I want to give you guys some perspective here, okay? So what's going to hit 30,000 first? Bitcoin has a long way to go. As of today, the Bitcoin price is currently at $4,626, meaning you would need to make up about $25,000 in order to hit that $30,000 mark, all right? So it's still got a long way to go. Meanwhile, the Dow Jones currently at about 22,000, very close to 22,000. So it'd have to go about another 8,000 points or so here. And so I want to give you guys some perspective as to what the comparison is here. Like, you know, what should you do here? All right. So Bitcoin, let's go back to the 1 year mark here. So Bitcoin over the past year has appreciated roughly like 500 to 700% over the last 12 months here, currently at obviously $4,626 here. So the growth rate for Bitcoin in appreciation is very high. However, it's purely speculatory, okay? There aren't a ton of companies out there accepting Bitcoin. Yeah, sure, there are a few. There's some gaming sites, there's a few shopping sites and so on. But for the most part, the application of Bitcoin hasn't really grown too much over the past 12 months, all right? And so actually I should talk about what also the Dow Jones is too, because a lot of you actually don't really know what the Dow Jones is. So the Dow Jones is an index of the about the top 30 companies in the United States. It's not necessarily the top 30 companies. I mean, right now Amazon would be in there. But like it has companies in this index like American Express, Apple, Microsoft, I'm sure is in here somewhere, right? McDonald's, Walmart, you know, all those big giant staple company, American companies, you know, they've all been in here for a long time. Actually, General Electric's been in here since 1907. And they're still in here, even though they've been pretty bad this year. And what's Dow DuPont? I've never heard of Dow DuPont, but apparently they just got entered in today. What? Or a few days ago? What day is it today? September 6th, they got in this week. Well, that's interesting. So Apple actually got in here 2015. Anyways, there's a ton of companies in here. So pretty much, what are you willing to bet on? Are you willing to bet on Bitcoin appreciating, or are you appreciating essentially another 500% over the next 2 years, which generally doesn't happen for a lot of these high growth, super high growth companies. Now it might. I mean, Bitcoin still has a market cap of a few $1 billion. It's still got a long way to go. $76 billion. Wow, it's actually growing quite a bit. Wow, it's going pretty fast. I remember talking about this. I started talking about Bitcoin somewhere in May, right? About $1,887, and that's appreciated a ton. So again, if you're listening to, I don't like investing in stuff like this, in Bitcoin, which is purely speculation. You don't get any near guaranteed returns. You don't get any dividends. You're essentially just betting that the price is going to go up because you believe that everyone else is going to buy Bitcoin, so that'll make the demand go higher, and the price will go higher, and you can sell it off and so on. I don't like investing like that. And maybe you do. Maybe I've heard some stories about people who've made a lot of money on Bitcoin, on YouTube specifically, about people who've made a lot of money on Bitcoin. Like we're talking tens of thousands of dollars, paying off, you know, their student loans, getting a down payment on a house and so on. It's not necessarily for me. It's too risky. It could be bubbly. It's not something I would typically invest in here. But here's this actual chart here. So Bitcoin would have to go up 500% to hit $30,000. And the Dow Jones would only have to go up 36.5%. However, a lot of the companies in the Dow Jones, they're established companies. They've been around a long time. A lot of the growth for these companies they're good. A lot of these are still very good growth companies, but they're not high growth. They're not, you know, Apple of 2008, right? I mean, Apple's not going to have too much more super high growth years. They're just going to be steady growth over the next into perpetuity, essentially. And so pretty much, are you willing to bet that Bitcoin is going to skyrocket before the Dow Jones hits 30,000? Because the Dow Jones is going to hit 30,000. Let's go to the max here. The Dow Jones, apart from the stock market collapse in 2008 and even during the tech bubble, it kind of stayed the same here. But the Dow Jones appreciates over time, almost always, right? It always has a blip of a few years here or there, but the Dow Jones always appreciates. So the question should be, do you think that Bitcoin's going to outpace the Dow Jones and hit 30,000, but outpace the Dow Jones by a factor of 15? I would guess, I would guess maybe. I've been wrong about Bitcoin so much lately. I'm still not going to invest in it. It's just not my style. I think that it could be bubbly. I don't really know. But again, it's up 4.7% today. If I had invested in it, I would have more than doubled my money when I started talking about it, right? So, I mean, who really knows at the end of the day? However, I think that a lot of the growth for Bitcoin's already happened. Again, a lot of these tech startup companies, if you would consider Bitcoin something like that, a lot of the best returns happen in the first few years. So from 2012 to today is essentially where most of the returns would happen. So I don't really know. And the market cap's getting up there, $76 billion. I mean, you're approaching a pretty high market cap there. You're 1/5 the size of Amazon. So, I guess if you were to just do math on that and saying that like Bitcoin should not be more valuable than Amazon, then you should expect a 5-fold increase in the price of Bitcoin. So this is a logical explanation here. So market cap for Bitcoin, $76 billion. Amazon's is roughly 500 billion, somewhere around there. And so I guess it'd be a 7-fold increase, right? About a 6-fold increase. Okay. So do you think that Bitcoin will have a 6-fold increase? And be as valuable as Amazon, and that would have it hit roughly, let's see, 6 times 5. That almost make it hit $30,000 for Bitcoin. All right, so that's what would need to happen. Bitcoin would need to be as valuable as Amazon is today in order to hit 30,000. That's some perspective for you right there. So my opinion is probably not going to happen because Bitcoin doesn't really do too much at this current second. It does. They do have a lot of companies out there that do take Bitcoin for buying and selling and trading goods. Blockchain technology, apparently that's pretty good. I still think that's very overrated, blockchain technology. I maybe financial institutions will adopt it. Who really knows? It's not for me. And I think that the Dow Jones is probably going to hit it before the Bitcoin. However, I've been wrong. But my opinion is that if Bitcoin becomes as valuable as Amazon, how could that not be a bubble? I mean, so I guess that's my opinion on that. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm interested to see what you guys hear, interested to hear what you guys think. I'm interested to see what you guys hear. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the next story I want to talk about today, which is actually the Bank of Canada raised interest rates up to 1%, and they didn't tell anyone. Which I woke up today and it was trending on Twitter how the Bank of Canada raised interest rates. They didn't have a press conference. They didn't do any of that stuff. They had just literally released a statement. Oh, we're going to raise interest rates. So that's a good sign. That means that the Canadian dollar is I think it's about 83 cents of an American dollar. I get paid in American dollars, so this is not good. I've lost about 14% of my income because I get paid in US dollars and then it flips over to Canadian. I get an additional 14% bump. So this is not good for me. However, I'm still going to be fine. But the Bank of Canada, raising interest rates by not telling anyone. So officially at 1%, hopefully it keeps going like this. I know that Canadian debt is at an all-time high, and they mentioned that too. They mentioned that there's a lot of problems with the Canadian economy right now. There's low inflation, again, tons of consumer debt, but the economy is pretty good. I mean, unemployment's fairly low. The market's rebounding from the 2015 oil drop. Canada heavily relies on oil, especially Alberta mostly. Toronto, and Ontario don't really care too much about oil in terms of, production and prices. We care about high prices, but low price, it doesn't really matter. But Alberta, they usually get hit pretty hard whenever oil prices drop, and that affects the entire Canadian economy. So, it's nice to see that the economies, it looks like, at least based on the Bank of Canada's thought process here, it looks like the Canadian economy is recovering from that, from the fracking boom of 2015, which is good. Just bad for my paycheck. So we're going to move on to the next thing I want to talk about, which is, this is actually just kind of interesting. I'll talk about this quickly here, but how long would $1 million last in retirement in each state in the United States here? And so I was actually kind of surprised. It actually can go a lot further than you think. Well, than I thought. And so in some states, and this is all, again, this is all for retirement here. So in a state like Oklahoma, $1 million in retirement would last you 25 years and 2 months, which is very, very good. Annual expenditures for a retiree in Oklahoma are $39,796. That is pretty good. So $1 million can pretty much take you, until the end of the ride, right? But then you get to a state like, let's go here to, Hawaii. Hawaii, people don't realize this, highest cost of living in the United States as a state, right? As a state, because cities, I think San Fran and Manhattan might be a little bit more, but Hawaii, highest cost of living. So $1 million there makes you last 11 years and 11 months. You, on average, will spend $83,834 as a retiree in Hawaii. Oh my goodness, that is not good. California, 16 years, 5 months. You'll spend about 60 grand. Now, the best state to live in if you have $1 million and want to retire is Mississippi, and then it's Arkansas, Oklahoma, Michigan, Tennessee, all the kind of flyover states where you can pretty much buy a mansion for 500 grand. It'll last you about 25 to 26 years in each one of those states. So I just thought that was interesting. Would you go? Here's a question. Are you the kind of people where you would want to move to a place that's less populated so you can get a lot more bang for your buck in the future? Maybe not now. Maybe after you've established some sort of business or online business and you get to fly over and you get to live wherever you want. Would you potentially live in, a state that is, or would you want to live in a place that isn't, a big city? Like Manhattan or LA. Let me know in the comments down below, because I don't really know where you guys stand. Are you guys more city people? Are you guys more country people? Suburbs? Where do you kind of stand with that whole ordeal? Let me know. Anyways, we're going to move on to the next one. The next story I want to talk about here is a company I'd never heard of. Just surpassed Apple for the world's second largest smartphone brand. I did not even know this company existed, and it's because they manufacture phones in China. They're called Huawei, Huawei, Huawei. I don't know how to pronounce that. They surpassed Apple for the second largest smartphone brand, which is kind of crazy, but it makes sense because if they're selling to Asian markets, the Chinese market, obviously tons of people there, expanding market. They're becoming a very capitalist country too, so everyone wants the phones. It's just really interesting that I've never heard of them before, and I've been I've been talking about China, for months now. I've always been paying attention to their economy. I just didn't know that this company existed, which is, again, it's really interesting. So they're only behind Samsung, and I remember a few years ago hearing that Samsung was the best. Was the top-selling smartphone company. I was really surprised about that, but it made sense here. They have a stronger presence in the Asian market. Oh, breaking news. Stocks close higher after Trump signals support for 3-month debt limit extension. Okay. All right, well, that's interesting. We're going to talk about Trump, actually, but not about the debt limit that he just talked about. We're going to talk about... This is one of those things where when Trump says something or tweets something and he doesn't explain it, and then the media just kind of takes off with the story about him not explaining it and stuff. So his tweet pretty much went on to say here, we will be going to North Dakota today to discuss tax reform and tax cuts. We're the highest taxed nation in the world. That will change. Okay. And so this article goes on to pretty much show how, if you were to take the average personal income tax, United States is actually one of the lowest developed countries in the world for taxes. The average personal income tax is 26% in the United States. Canada, roughly 30%. Highest is Denmark at nearly 52%. Excuse me. And then, Finland, obviously at 40%, and Sweden and all those countries. So, again, if you were to just take that tweet, obviously the media is just like, hey, Trump is lying again and all that stuff. Well, I think that what Trump is actually thinking about here is the corporate tax, which I always like to mention. Out of all of the Out of all of the developed countries in the world, first world countries in the world, the United States has the highest corporate tax at 35%, plus potentially another 12% based on what state you actually live in. So I think because Trump has been in the business world so long, he assumes that the only tax rate is the corporate tax rate. Meanwhile, the vast majority of taxable income is actually from personal income tax, individual income tax, right? So I just think that that's kind of funny how Trump, whenever he doesn't explain something, it's just kind of funny. He's really bad at that. Whenever he says something, he always like half lies too. He kind of like always in his tweets and stuff, he always like half lies, but also half tells the truth. It's really weird. I've noticed about that. Anyways, we're going to move on to the next story here. Only a couple more. Apple and Amazon reportedly pursuing the rights for the James Bond franchise. Whoa, this is really interesting. Now, here's my thoughts on this. I don't know if you've seen a lot of the Apple, TV video content that they've put out recently, but they took over Carpool Karaoke, and they took over, they tried to do, the Planet of the Apps and a few other things. And a lot of their content, it feels like a lot of their content is very high quality, but they don't know how to make a TV show. They don't know how to like make the show connect with the people actually watching it. Sure, they'll put in high production value, high quality, a bunch of famous people, all that, but they don't know how to make the show like interesting and how to make it fun and again, connect with the people that are actually watching the show. And so I think that if they were to get the James Bond franchise rights, I'd be interested to see. I'm guessing that they would just hire some Hollywood director. Same with Amazon. I can't see them releasing James Bond franchise just on Apple Music or just on Amazon Video. But I don't really know. What do you think would happen if they actually did buy it? I don't know if it's going to happen or not. Who really knows? But do you think that they would just put it on like Amazon Video or just on Apple Music? I would think not. That would be my opinion. I think that they would need that if they were to buy a James Bond franchise, we're talking $1 billion plus movie franchise. Actually, historically, many billions of dollars, many times over. So, but if they were to spend $1 billion to get the rights or whatever the number may be, they're probably going to need a box office income in order to pay for the rights for that. Now, saying that, I guess Apple and Amazon, they have a bunch of cash anyway, so they could buy this and have no problem and don't have to release it in the box office. But anyways, at the end of the day, I don't really know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. I want to talk about Amazon quickly. Amazon's Souk acquires Wing.ae to expand Prime style same and next day delivery. So pretty much what this means is that Amazon just gobbled up its largest Middle East competitor for $580 million. That's all that is. So Amazon's expanding as quickly as possible into markets which you probably wouldn't think that most people would expand into. But again, Dubai, even though they have a lot of weird laws over there, they're a pretty wealthy country, and same with Saudi Arabia. And they just have laws that we don't necessarily agree with for the most part. Let's talk about the next story here. So quickly, the New York sports talk radio star apparently had a Ponzi scheme going. So what was this guy's name? Craig Carton. Sports talk radio show guy. He had a bunch of gambling debts. We're talking millions and millions of dollars. And so he negotiated $10 million in financing from an unnamed hedge fund to help purchase tickets in return for a cut of the profit from the resale of the tickets. So pretty much he was saying, hey, give me $10 million. I'm going to buy tickets for whatever, $80 a pop. And then I'm going to resell them for $100 a pop or $120 a pop. And it's an investment for you. And if you give me money, I'll do this. I'll do all the work. You don't have to worry about anything. However, allegedly, he took the money and just kind of paid off his debts and kept the rest of it. So, or he also needed to kind of, the other thing too is apparently he would try to get more, typical Ponzi scheme, he'd try to get more people involved in the business. So he tried to get $500,000 from this guy to pay for the $500,000 that he promised the other two investors or whatever. So the business would only survive if you would keep getting investors and paying off your previous investors. That's called a Ponzi scheme. He might be arrested. We will see what happens. Let's talk about the stock market movers and shakers, winners and losers, whatever you want to call them today. The Gap up 7.4% today, a pretty big gain because they announced that they're transitioning to an e-commerce platform. It's not because of good earnings. It's because they announced that they're going to focus very much on selling stuff online. Good for them. Macy's up 5.5%. Kohl's up 4.9%. Halliburton up 3% here. Let's see some of the bad ones here. Some of the losers: Mattel down 3.2%, CBS down 2.6%, Hasbro down 1.9%. Let's cover some of the big stocks here that you guys like to hear about. Alibaba down 0.9%. Snapchat pretty much stayed the same. Nike down 0.45% here. And it's essentially all the other big stocks. Tesla down 1.45%. Netflix up 2.7%. Twitter up 1.05%. And all of the rest of the other stocks you guys like to hear about pretty much stayed the same. So I think that's going to wrap this video up. I think, unless whatever this is. Yeah, so why the shares in the gap jumped today. So yeah, that's right. So I'd like to thank you very much for watching. Remember to check out my stock market program if you're interested in setting up your account and trading in the stock market. You want to see what I've invested in. If you want to get the Wealth Accelerator too, learn how to build a side business, a passive income, all that stuff. All of that's in the link down below. And I'd like to thank you very much for watching. You're all very beautiful people, and I'll see you guys in the next video.